Hey everyone, this is Aditi and you're watching Legal Bites. Our today's topic of discussion is trespass against a person. In this video, I'll be looking at introduction to trespass against a person, meaning of trespass against a person, types of wrongs in trespass against a person, and at last but not the least, defenses in trespass against a person. Now let's start our video. Coming to our first topic, that is introduction to trespass against a person. Trespass against a person means a direct and intentional interference with a person's body and liberty. Now coming to the meaning of trespass against a person. Trespass against a person is the causing of apprehension of unreasonable interference with a person's body and includes uses of force, thus causing damage and bodily impairment. The trespasser with an ulterior intention transgresses the right of another by making alteration in it with the objective to cause wrongful loss or wrongful gain as the case may be. Trespass is of three types: assault, battery, and false imprisonment. Now coming to our first type of wrong, that is assault. Assault is an act of putting another person in reasonable fear or to commit an immediate battery by means of an act amounting to attempt, or to commit a battery amounts to an actionable tort of assault. The main ingredients of assault are conduct and reasonable fear. Conduct means something which threatens the use of violence which is unlawful, and the victim's fear that the threat is likely to be carried out shall be reasonable. We have a leading case law, Stephens versus Meyers. What happened in this case was the claimant was a chairman at a meeting where the defendant was also available. There were 6 or 7 people between the claimant and the defendant. The defendant was very disruptive, and as a motion was passed that he should leave the room, the defendant said that he would rather pull out the chairman out of his chair and immediately advanced his fist clenched towards the claimant. But he was stopped by a man sitting next to the claimant. Although his intention was to hit the claimant, but he defended that there was no assault as he had no power to carry out the threat because there were people in between. The court held that not every threat is an assault. There needs to be means of carrying that threat into effect, and it must be a realistic threat of personal violence. The judge directed the jury that if the defendant could have reached to the claimant and had hit him, then it would have been an assault. But if the defendant did not have the intention of hitting the claimant and it was unrealistic for him to reach out the claimant, then there is no assault. Now coming to our second type of wrong, that is battery. A battery is an intentional and direct application of any physical force on any another person. It is the actual striking or even touching of another person. Battery is also defined as an intentional physical contact which is not generally acceptable as an ordinary conduct of a daily life. The main ingredients of battery are there should be use of force, and the same should be without any lawful justification. Even though the use of force is trivial and does not cause any harm, yet the wrong is constituted. However, it is essential that the force should be unintentional and without any lawful justification. Holt CJ stated that if 2 or more persons meets in a narrow passage and without any violence or design of harm, the one touches the another in a gentle manner, then it would not be considered as battery. He further stated that harms which are unintentional and caused by pure accident are not actionable. We have a leading case law, Wilson versus Pringle. What happened in this case was the claimant and defendant were both schoolboys who involved in an incident that occurred in a school corridor and it resulted in the claimant falling and being injured. The defendant argued that there was no battery as battery involves intentional touching with hostility and an intent to cause an injury, and hot split did not involve such intent. The court held that it's true that battery involves intentional touching with hostility but no intent to cause injury. The court considered a better test to validate how common these activities are in daily life. The court further stated that there will be useful consideration but ultimately the touching must be hostile. Now coming to our third type of wrong, that is false imprisonment. False imprisonment consists in the imposition of total restraint for some period. According to this imprisonment in the ordinary sense is not required. At the time when a person is being deprived of his personal liberty, whether by being confined within four walls or by being prevented from moving to a certain place. This kind of wrong is considered as an unlawful restraint of a person which restricts a person's freedom of movement. In the Indian Penal Code, it is defined as wrongful restraint. Article 22 of the Indian Constitution provides for protection against unlawful arrest and casts an obligation on the state to follow due procedure while carrying out arrest activities. And not only this, Section 43 of CRPC provides for arrest by a private person if the offender is a proclaimed habitual offender and is alleged to be liable for a cognizable and non-bailable offence. We have a leading case law, Bhim Singh vs. State of Jammu and Kashmir. What happened in this case was the petitioner was an MLA from the Jammu Kashmir Legislative Assembly. One day while he was going to attend a parliamentary session where there was also a voting session in which his vote was very crucial, he was then stopped and arrested by some police officers. And not only this, he was also not presented before the magistrate for 4 days and was kept in some hidden place. As his right to vote was infringed, he moved to the Supreme Court by filing a writ petition under Article 32 of the Indian Constitution. The Supreme Court ruled out that the petitioner was detained unlawfully and Article 21 of the Indian Constitution was being deprived from him with many other fundamental rights. The court awarded him Rs 50,000 as a compensation on account of the infringement of his fundamental rights. Now coming to defenses in trespass against a person. We have three defenses. The first one is consent, the second one is self-defense, and the third one is necessity. Now coming to our first defense, that is consent. If the claimant consented expressly or impliedly to the tort of assault and battery, then there will be a complete defense. Now coming to our second defense, that is self-defense. If it is lawful for any person to use a reasonable degree of force for the protection of himself or any other person against any unlawful use of force. The key to successful defense is the element of reasonableness, as this defense will operate only if the force being used by the defendant is proportionate to the force being applied by an attacker. Now coming to our third defense, that is necessity. The wrongdoer may have a successful defense only if they can show that it was necessary for them to act in the way they did. In other words, it means there must be a sound justification for breaking the law. Hey everyone, if you find this video useful, do like, share and comment. We'll meet with the next video very soon. Till then, bye-bye. Thank you.